As veterans, we struggle to fit in. Taught to never let feelings win. Lost in a world full of fear and pain. We all have hung our heads in shame. When we look up, we see hands reaching out. There is so much support about. It comes from above and others around. Please take a hand and rise from the ground. Stand up and fight for your life. Walk away from negativity. Don't give in to strife. Show up for yourself. Find your voice. Keep moving forward. You have a choice. Give compassion for the child inside. Healing pain, let hope reside. Lost you will no longer be. Then you can help set others free. Now speak up and with us share the tools that make pain easy to bear. Advocate for others to lighten their load. Use your voice and join our show. On Coffee Talk with Bryan and Marie, we heal out loud, PTSD to advocacy.
And what's going on, friends and family? Yes, thank you so much for joining us on another great episode of Coffee Talk with Bryan and Marie. How are we doing today, Marie?
I am very antsy and anxious and exhausted right now as I am getting ready for my big surgery tomorrow. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. We're going to take a week off of recording, but we have a couple episodes in the bank, so we should be good to have an episode for a couple weeks. But yeah, I'm getting nervous. This is kind of a big surgery, getting a hysterectomy and a bladder prolapse repair, and it's going to be intense. So,
Yeah, we definitely been talking about it. So the wait is just about over for you, and definitely be praying for you. By the time everybody watches this, you will have been recovered, and everybody will be hearing about that probably the next show. And we hope it goes well. And like I said, we'll be praying for you, and definitely got to let me know that you're all good and you
of
know
course.
you're good to go. I'm super excited for our next guest. I love having and getting to know all the people out there, all the amazing things that they're doing. Before we get to our next guest, we're gonna do something. We're this season is kind of, we really want to try to showcase other veterans right now. That's kind of like 2026. A big goal is really showing that we should be supporting others no matter what, even if they're in the same type of thing that we're doing, right? And so these next the next couple people I'm going to be showing you is right here is a podcast. All right. And I met Willis a while back from Homefront Sit Rep podcast. All right. Now he's had a couple different co-hosts. Now he's got Gunnery Sergeant. They call him Gunny. I believe his last name's Deeds. And he's on there with Willis, and they bring on veterans and showcase veterans. I know Marie's been on the show. I've been on his show. He's been on my show.
I am technically a guest co-host on that show now too. So I was on there once and they asked me back to come be a co-host while we did an interview, and hopefully in the future we will be collaborating more. I flippin' love them. They are amazing. And then I've got to do a shout out. So Willis, he is just so about, helping other veterans. and Gunny as well. And Gunny is actually, I've got to say this, Gunny is a part of something called Team Fast Track, and they do jumps for people that we have lost, and like air jumps. And so he actually, when I was on their show and I was talking about some of the people I lost in Iraq, he proceeded to immediately get a couple jumps done for the people that I lost. And it was so wonderful and fantastic. He just got the third one done last week. And so, if you have somebody who you have lost, and would like to have an honor jump done, they will take the picture of the person. They will take a picture of them holding that picture. They will go up into the air. They will jump with that picture, and when they come back down, they'll have that picture with them still. And it's like jumping with them, and it's very beautiful. And
That's
then,
awesome.
just all of the guests that they're a part of, they participate with all of their guests. An example is, we just had somebody, Damon Freeman from SOF Missions, on our show, and he was a guest on Willis's show. And actually, Willis and Gunny just a couple months ago went to do that SOF Missions retreat. And so they practice what they preach. They are constantly working through their own stuff. They are receiving help, and they're supporting their community really amazingly.
Yeah, it's a great thing to see them doing what they're doing. Both Marine Corps veterans, and I think they served together too. So they definitely have, some cohesiveness as to host joining together. Great show. Go over there. They got YouTube. They're on all the different platforms, for audio as well. It is free 99. Go hit that little bell and go give them some love. And you guys over there, keep doing what you guys are doing. We appreciate and love it. And it, like I said, it doesn't matter how many different veteran podcasts are out there. We should all be cheering each other on and sharing each other's guests with one another, all that great stuff. Because that's what it's all about: getting to know everybody, getting to know our community.
I want to also do a couple shout outs. So, Willis is also hugely involved with two other big things for podcasting. They are a part of, something called the Tip of the Spear, which is a podcast for veteran podcasters. And so Willis kind of spearheads that many times, and it's where just a bunch of us podcasters go on there and we just talk about world events and what's in the news and stuff that affects the veterans. He also, is a huge part of the, Challenge America Cav Arts program. If you are a veteran, please look up Cav Arts, CAVARTS, and they have a class that is a podcasting class. So it will teach you how to podcast. So if you are interested in getting into the podcasting world, Willis is the man to talk to, and Cav Arts.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And like I said, go show them some love for Homefront Sit Rep Podcast. All right. Well, before we get going, I just wanted to share a little bit. I've been working on a little project myself. I've always had a love for radio since I was a little dude. I've always loved talk radio. That's part of why I kind of started podcasting as well. For a while there, I worked as a radio DJ on Veteran Voice Radio. Really enjoyed doing that. So I really been just thinking a lot on my free time and what's another project or something that I can keep, kind of doing. And so I started thinking, all right, why not I start my own internet radio station? And so been working really hard on that. It's going to be called Raise the Roof Internet Radio. And it's going to be playing the best music from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, the stuff I kind of grew up on, listening to, from my, from the little days all the way up into my high school, into the Marine Corps and beyond. And it's a good thing I kept all my CDs. I have so many freaking CDs from those eras that it's like I already have my library building up. So I've been spending a lot of time ripping CDs and just building that up. So I'm hoping, and if all goes well, to have this thing kicked off by about around May or June time frame, and that way, during the summertime, it would be kind of cool to have a nice little radio station with all the cool CDs and stuff, and then there'll be some slots available for anybody out there that maybe has a liking to DJing. It's obviously going to be like we'll start off as be a volunteer type of thing, and just something for you to go if you want to have like a little hour slot and you love playing 80s or 90s or 2000s or something. Come on, and it'll be a good opportunity for someone to share their love for passion for something and get a little bit of experience, when you don't need experience to do it. Just a little bit of some stuff to get it going. But yeah, so super excited about that, and hopefully we'll get it going. Right now it's more of a vision, and it's just like a planning thing. So we'll see how it turns into fruition or not. We'll see if the dream comes alive. But that's something I'm definitely getting passionate about and working on. All right, Marie, you got yourself a great poem for us to start off with?
I do have one.
All right, I'm going to let you go ahead and read it off and then introduce our next guest, and then we'll get this ball rolling.
Hey, guys. Before I read this next poem, I just wanted to do another shout out. If you are in Utah on April 18th between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., there is a mission ready wellness fair given through the Utah Department of Veteran and Military Affairs. It is going to be at the Hill Aerospace Museum, and if I'm feeling better from my surgery, I am planning on having a booth there, and I will be providing flyers for the podcast, and I will also be selling my book there and doing a book signing. So if you are interested in supporting and getting a poetry book, please feel free to be there. Again, that is April 18th from 10 to 2 at the Hill Aerospace Museum. So the poem I am going to read today is a poem that I wrote the other day. I realized that I had been super distracting, and I took a moment just to do some mindfulness meditation. And as I finally slowed down and closed my eyes and watched the movie behind my eyelids, I created this poem. So it's called Behind Closed Eyes. A whole world behind closed eyes, shapes, sensations, lights. Imagination runs wild, undefined sights. Familiar places, some never seen, others frightening. Unrealized ideas and inventions, so enlightening. Conversations never had, always second guessing. Trauma wounds open up, emotions undressing. When slowing down, brain starts to scream, codependent friend, it's only comforted by distraction. Will it ever end? Pushing through the urge to run, mental observation, allowing brain to process natural preservation. Without condemnation, feelings come and go. Releasing expectation, thoughts can flow. Mind can take a break, heart's ears open, feeling clarity, truths unspoken, messages from God. Can you hear it? Unconditional love, connection to spirit. The world behind closed eyes, a place of peace from worries of the day, a short release. So I hope you guys can also, just take some moments to just be mindful and be present, because there's a lot of awesomeness that happens behind closed eyes, and when you actually, can take a breather and take a rest. So
All right, we'll go ahead and introduce our next guest. Thank you for that amazing poem.
thank you. So our next guest, I know personally, he was planning to be here in person, but it did not end up working out. But Dan Conley has become a good friend of mine. I met him originally, I can't remember exactly when, but where remember him the most was back in November, October, November timeframe. We both went to a local nonprofit's Veterans Day dinner gala, and the program's called Behind the Lava Lava, and they are phenomenal. But they had this Veterans Day gala, or yeah, Veterans Day gala. And I remember I was sitting in the corner with my husband and some volunteers. And then Dan was sitting at the next table, and he was all specked out in his whole uniform, his greens. And it was really wonderful to see him just kind of like be there and support. And anyways, I just remember that very vividly, and I've met him at a couple other of the nonprofit events, and we have a lot of mutual friends, and he's just a really good guy, and I'm excited to have him on here. It's been fun having people that I know on here. So I get to like gush over how I know him. But Dan Conley is medically retired from the Army and is a disabled combat veteran. After completing his MBA, he ended up getting into woodworking as a way to keep himself busy and active, and it slowly morphed and developed into Tilted Knot Woodworks. He also produces videos for YouTube showing his woodworking and how he has learned to work with physical limitations. Um, I want to say before we bring him on, if you guys are interested, he is debating starting doing some live videos. If you guys would watch him, send us some love. Let us know. Give him some encouragement. But anyways, Dan, come on in and let's hear about you.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome in, Dan. How you doing, man?
Doing good, thank you. And we actually originally met through the Veteran Business Resource Center here in Salt Lake City.
That's what it was. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So Veteran Business Resource Center, if you guys don't know, it is a program for small businesses. They will help you get on your feet. They will help you find funding. And they also do monthly networking events, and they
Nice.
are fantastic.
Yeah,
So,
anywhere in the state of Utah. If you're in Wyoming and Idaho, you can also participate. But they are a phenomenal organization that can help with business resources and helping veterans get their feet underneath them and get a business up and running.
That's awesome. I love that.
we're so glad that you're here, Dan. We really are.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dan, let's go ahead and get to know more about you. Give us, like the high level about you and your experience, where you come from, your experience while you were in the, just give us a brief overview of your experience in the Army, and then what medical retiring looked like for you getting out. Cause I know that, you were injured, right? And so your time was cut a little bit short. Then I don't know if you planned on being a career guy or if you were going to be a four and done kind of guy. I don't know what that, how that medically changed your trajectory in life. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about that kind of stuff. Cause I do know that, sometimes that does play a big, factor on people's mental health when they get injured, and then the injury stays with them for the rest of their life or whatever. I mean, it's a constant reminder, right? So we'll talk more about that kind of stuff, and then we're going to get more into how you're doing things with your woodworks and how you got yourself involved in that. Is that just a passion you've always had? We'll get more in that, and maybe that's been a way of your therapy, and we can talk more about that kind of stuff. However it may be, let's get to know more about Dan and hear your story, brother.
Okay. Wow, I don't know where to start. Yeah, life is weird. And especially when you have your entire identity changed on you with circumstances that you do not plan for, nor do you really want to have become part of your identity. So it's, yeah, it's weird. I do apologize for the mess behind me. I moved into new house in January, the end of January. This room that I am is in the process of becoming my office and also my production studio for voiceovers and whatnot with my YouTube channel. But it is an absolute, it's an absolute mess. This place, I was looking for a project house. I didn't expect to actually find a project house. So,
Too much of a project house, or
yeah. I was thinking, something that I could fix up a little bit, put a little bit of time and money into, and then, turn it into a rental or do something else with later on. I've had more, lack of better description, what the fuck moments with this house than I have with any other house that I've ever been in. And so it's becoming an adventure, and I'm going to be recording everything that I do and putting that up on my YouTube channel as a journey with this new project, and see how things go. So I'm trying to keep myself busy so I don't go completely upside down. But we all deal with that one way or another.
Yeah, it's funny how in our mind we have plans, but the world has another plan for you. You know what I mean?
Right. Brian
Yeah,
just
no
went
kidding.
through something similar. He had moved into a house and then that didn't work out. So then he had to go and move into a whole nother house, and it's so different from what he was planning.
The last 2 years for me have been completely just, everything has been upside down and turned over. So it's been an adventure. Let's see.
Well, it's been I'll say it's been wonderful seeing you participate in the community, even though you have all of this stuff going on that's like going against what you were planning, or this, that, and the other. Like, it's wonderful to see you actually still participating and not letting it get you down, that because you could have easily said, this is too much, I hate this, F this, but you didn't, like, you're still moving through, you're still
Sounds like
making plans. I see you out in the community showing off your work. You're still moving forward, and I think it's beautiful.
You just got used to getting kicked in the nuts. That's the thing. You just start getting used to getting kicked in the nuts. Maybe you start wearing a cup.
Well, I've been in that position where the muzzle of your rifle starts looking like it's going to taste really, really well, and it's not a place that I want to ever get back to again. And so when you find the positives and you find the things that you can actually help with and turn into a positive, it does make a big difference on not only how you see yourself, but the world around you as well.
So let's do this a little bit. You
Okay.
just talked about that part, right? Let's back up a little bit, right? How did you find yourself getting to this darkness, right? Now, what type of, if you can give us you don't have to go in details and stuff like that if you don't want to. Now, did a lot of, we haven't really talked about your military career and stuff and how you got injured and things like that. Maybe we'll back up a little bit there, talk about how you got injured and how you separated, and then you can kind of discuss maybe if these kind of things started talking, because you talked about identity and things that and unexpectancy, things that changed your trajectory in life. So let's get a little bit more in that area and find out, why did we get there? Then what kind of things did you do to help get yourself out of the, we're never really kind of out of the hole, but you start finding a way to get up it. You know what I mean? Sometimes we slip down in the son of a bitch, but it's all about getting back up or keep going. Right. So, that's really the meat and potatoes of what we're trying to get here on this show, is that healing part is, hey bro, what pulled you down in the damn pit? And what kind of things got you out of that pit? Was people throwing ladders down at you? Was people flying in flashlights? How were you able to find yourself? So we're kind of, let's go a little bit further back and get into the meat and the potatoes of what happened.
Um, Probably the best way to start, and this also helps to explain who I am and why I'm the person I am. My father was in the Air Force for the first 10 years of my life. So we had kind of a very odd childhood. We went to the elementary schools on base. We lived overseas while he was stationed in the Azores.
A lot of moving.
Most of his time was spent at Fairchild Air Force Base in Spokane. So we had that kind of a structure and that kind of stability growing up. But my father was also a very, very abusive individual. In every way that you can possibly imagine. And when I was 14,
Mentally,
my mother was
physically as well. Like he just mentally and physically. Yeah. Okay.
Well, my father actually went to jail for what we grew up with. And my mother wasn't exactly the most stable either. Both of my parents were very good examples of how not to be a human and the kind of human you don't want to be. We never learned communication. We never learned trust. We never learned how to really create any kind of bond or, any of that growing up. And so that portion for me, there's a lot of things that I just don't understand. I don't relate to because of the severity of what we grew up with. So fast forward, I'm a teenager. I'm in high school. I'm dealing with the reality of what I grew up with, going through counseling, going through therapy, trying to come to terms with the abuse that we dealt with, and finding myself in a position where I knew exactly when and where to step on the railroad tracks and had all that planned out because I was done. And decided that no, I didn't want to hurt some friends. I didn't want them to have to deal with that. My family, they weren't a part of the picture at the time because I was in foster care. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I eventually got to a point where I understood that there was no control that I had over my childhood or anything else that transpired prior to that point, and there's nothing that I could have done to stop or prevent or change or anything. So that
How old were you at that point?
I was 15, 16 at that point.
That's a huge realization to make at that age, because some people, take years and years and years.
You had to grow up a lot faster, though.
Yeah.
You were kind of put in a position where you were not being able to be a kid, right? Like,
no, I wasn't, and it's kind of surreal because there's a lot of my childhood that I do not remember, and it's probably for the better. To be honest,
that happens.
And I've always felt like I've had to fight to prove who I am, fight to prove my value. I've always had to be able to try and justify who I am and why I'm here. And so that was a big part of me growing up. It wasn't until I was in my mid to late 20s that I really started to realize and understand just not only the racist influences that I grew up with, but the negative influences that I grew up with, and how my father was able to justify the abuse because of ADHD, or because of his lack of understanding, or because of, whatever he grew up with. And it just kind of like, my family and I, my siblings and I, we decided that was it. We were not going to pass on the cycle of abuse. We were going to stop it. We were going to overcome it, and we were going to become the people that our parents never were.
I was going to ask, sorry. I need to just start making notes instead of interrupting. But
No, you're fine.
You said your father was in the military. Was this untreated PTSD? Was that part of this with his military service?
I don't know. He never
Did
deployed.
Did he come from a background of abuse or anything? Do you know if that was like kind of something he experienced? Or did he never really talk about his childhood?
We're not entirely sure. About 2 years ago, one of my uncles on his side of the family contacted me for the first time in 30 years.
Wow.
And wanted to get me some photographs of my father and some things that I didn't even know about, such as pictures when he was in the Air Force. We actually went to Afghanistan when we were in transit to the Azores, and I have a picture of us sitting in the Kandahar airport, which I was 7 years old at the time. No memory of that at all. So I now have some photographs that are actually kind of cool. But when he asked if what he was told was true, and I told him yes, and gave him some detail of the severity of the abuse, that was the last time I ever heard from him. They didn't even want to address it. They didn't want to accept it. They didn't want that to be a reality for the Conley side of the family. So,
there's some kind of a sensitivity factor there for him, and
there's some. Well, we grew up with the men are men. Men don't show emotion. Whatever happens in the family stays in the family. You don't discuss anything that doesn't pertain to somebody else. We didn't have any kind of open communication, inside or outside of the family. So there's a lot that there's a lot of communication skills that I learned later on in life that I never learned as a kid. And so it's shaped me into who I am, for the better and the worse. But it's also what has brought me to where I'm at in life too, being able to tie in my own experiences with what I went through becoming disabled and the fallout from that and all the different changes that I've had, and realizing that I am who I am, and I need to be able to tell my story so that other people can understand that, hey, it doesn't matter how bad life is. There are ways to get through it and come out on the other side as a better person.
I think it's awesome that you experienced this and you made that decision at such a young age. No more. I will not repeat these patterns of abuse. Because you said your siblings and you kind of made that decision. That this wasn't going to continue, and I think that's awesome. You breaking the cycle. And like who knows, like just seeing how your uncle reacted, right? Who knows what happened in their family, was it repeated abuse, and so I think it's awesome that you're like, nope, I'm not going to do this. So
it's amazing that you and your siblings actually collectively kind of
said
this is where it stops, what I mean?
Because sometimes it like there's one sibling that's like, hey, I'm not okay with this, and they'll leave the family and they become the black sheep, and other family members become a part of the abuse and the cycle.
It's because they don't want to talk about it, right? They're holding true to what they they've been told their whole life. Don't do, I mean, there's some people that still get stuck kind of in that, and it's harder for them to open up because you got to deal. a lot of people don't like to talk about things because they, quite frankly, don't even like to deal with what they're talking about, right? And so
Yeah, completely.
it's better left unsaid than dealt with sometimes, you know what I
Well,
mean? But in the truth statement of the where that's untrue is that when we compartmentalize and we keep all that stuff inside of us, it really starts to build, it starts to grow. You know what I mean? And if we don't cut that thing down at some point in time, it can really morph into something and really play a factor way down the line for you.
well, and there are some permanent aspects of my personality that, I am who I am because of the trauma, because of the PTSD, because of what I experienced. And
I was
that's also the same with military service too.
that's why I was going to
There is
ask
some
how did
PTSD that is most likely going to be permanent for me, that I still have issues with, and I've been out for 20 years.
That's what I was going to ask. How, so like for me, I dealt with a lot of childhood trauma and then joining the military, never dealing with that trauma, it just perpetuated and I repeated patterns of abuse with myself. Um, how did how did escaping this lifestyle, how did that affect you getting into the military? So what was that journey like transitioning from that going into this mentality where like, "Hey, I know that this is not worth my life. I'm not gonna let this affect me. I'm not gonna let this, tear me down." So how did going through that mentality shift affect you joining the military, and what was that journey like, that transition?
Um, I don't know if that actually had any influence on me joining the military.
Okay.
Um, I had no plans on joining the military. I had no desire. I grew up in the Air Force. We had that experience. Some of it good, some of it bad. My father was given a less than honorable discharge. The only reason it wasn't dishonorable, from what I understand, was because he had, because we were part of the picture. Had us kids not been there, his fate probably would have been substantially different. And he probably would have served time for theft and other things that he did while he was in the Air Force. So, yeah, when I say that my parents were not the example of the kind of human you want to be, I'm not joking. It's just crazy. So I never wanted to be in the military. I didn't want to be that kind of person. I didn't want to have that kind of lifestyle. Fast forward, I'm 26 years old. I have been doing business development, sales. I was fairly successful with what I was doing. I wasn't as successful as I wanted to be. Um, I got myself in the way of myself more times than I should have, and I should have actually just trusted where I was going and allowed some things to happen. But you sometimes get scared of your own success, and you end up creating your own barriers so that you don't actually achieve that success. And so, I found myself in a position where, yes, I was doing okay. But I wasn't doing as good as I wanted to be. And I felt that I needed something else to fill a gap that I could not figure out how to fill myself. And I felt that I needed to be part of something bigger than myself and step into something where I could actually. Okay, Jade, my before neglected cat. I needed something to help me be more of who I wanted to be. And my youngest brother was joining the Army to blow stuff up. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to help him get some rank. This is a good opportunity for me to retain the last shreds of my destructive childhood nature
And be all you can be.
Yeah, why not? What can I, there's nothing to lose. And so the middle of 98, June of 98, I am signing the papers at the recruiter station. And in December, we left for MEPS and went to Fort Leonard Wood. So that's where everything began. And I had a lot of fun in boot camp. I really enjoyed it. I'm 26 years old. There is one person that is older than me by 6 months. I'm older than two of my drill sergeants. One of them is my age. One of them is a couple of years older than I am. One of my drill sergeants was former Delta Force. He decided to become a drill instructor for the points because it added to his retirement. One of the instructors, he was tail end Vietnam, and he was doing this because he was getting ready to retire, and he just wanted to, he wanted to have something to do and different while he was waiting for his retirement to come through. And I enjoyed the head games. I thought it was a lot of fun. You've got these punk kids coming out of high school, one of them out of Detroit. He was a, borderline gangbanger, and we're not even 2 weeks in, and he's crying in his bed at night because he can't, this sucks. Nobody should treat him the way that they're treating him. And, he's just going to start, blah, blah, blah. And some of the guys in his squad helped to straighten him out.
A little soap party or what, man?
We're not really sure what happened that night. But you could definitely see there were some bruises, and his attitude after that was a little bit different. And then about halfway through our basic training, drill sergeants got into him, and he ended up being one of the guys that actually made it through and seemed to pull his head out of his ass at that point. And I think he had a chance of actually getting somewhere. He was going active duty. So, you see people transform during that time period, and some of us are just kind of like, yeah, whatever. We go home to our reserve units or move on to our duty station, and, life becomes what it becomes. So, I'm doing that. I have a tendency to not be the most, I have a habit of not making the most intelligent choices at times. Let's put it that way. Some of my decisions haven't exactly been the best, and my progression rank through the service
Wait, what branch were you?
I was in the Army.
Oh, don't make us look bad. Just say Marine.
No, I already knew he was. I was like, roll with it, dog.
I'm just kidding.
My E5 is the only rank that I held that never got taken away. And that comes partially into part of my story. I was never the model soldier, the model, individual, the model citizen, whatever you want to call me. I never did anything really stupid and illegal. But when you're sitting in county lockup for 48 hours because you have 4 different speeding tickets that you just kind of forgot to pay for, and you have a warrant out for your arrest, and you're arguing with the person that is becoming your ex-wife on the phone and blow through a school zone at 40 miles an hour, It
Man, you
has
just have
some
one of
very
those
different
days. Woo.
side effects and consequences.
Sounds like the
So
perfect storm there.
yeah. So, and when you spend your weekend in the county jail because you can't figure out how to take care of your own finances, and
You
or
spiraled.
just decide it's not important enough to take care of.
Yeah.
You kind of have to deal with some attitude adjustments and change how you how you see things. And that was a lot of my military career too. I got myself involved with everything I could possibly do. I worked as an armorer. I worked in supply. I did driver training. I did communications training. Anything and everything that I could possibly get involved with, I got myself involved with so that I could increase not only my value as an individual, but my ability to change things if I decided I wanted to change things. When I first signed up, took the ASVAB test like everybody else has to, told my recruiter what I wanted to do. She came back and she's like, well, I think you should do this or this. And I'm like, no, I want to do this. And she's like, well, your ASVAB scores, this is a waste of who you are and your abilities. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I want to go blow stuff up. So either you're going to let me do this, or I'm walking out that door and I'm talking to your station commander and saying, hey, tell her not to push anything else. And this is what I want. And this is what I'm going to do, or I'm done. And so, yeah, I'm not exactly known for being the most flexible person at times. So yeah, I made friends. I made enemies. I had people that liked me, people that didn't. And I tried to ride that line of, I don't care if you like me or not. I'm going to do what I need to do to get myself where I need to be. And if you want to work with me, great. If not, then I don't care. In some ways, that's really good. Other ways, that's really bad. And this is part of what came back to bite me and lead to where I'm at now. I follow the directions of our supply sergeant. And it created a bit of a hazmat situation up at Camp Williams. He told me to do something, I did it. He was in E7. Keyword was an E7. And so I followed the directions because at that time I'm an E3. Very quickly became an E1. And one of the brand new recruits didn't quite understand the fact that when they say, hey, I need a volunteer, you don't enthusiastically go, okay, I'll help. And so we never got past that issue. We never got past what he had to deal with because of my following directions and not thinking that maybe I should question something or do something different. And so later on down the road, life changes. I moved to Seattle. I joined a transportation company, learning how to load and unload the roll-on, roll-off ships with the Navy for transporting gear, everything else.
So you're Army, but working with the Navy.
Yes.
Okay.
We were doing load plans for the Air Force, for the Navy, that kind of thing. Learning how to not only tell the truck drivers where to go and how to get there, but also what goes on what piece of equipment as far as transport, whether it's going on an aircraft, going on a ship, whatever. The towers get hit. I lose everything. I lost $15,000 worth of commission within the first 2 months. lost my car, lost my apartment 3 months later. I was put on, we were told we were on standby for deployment, pack our bags, get ready to go. 6 weeks later, we're told to stand down. Everything was completely destroyed. I lost everything, moved back to Salt Lake because I had family that could help. I had resources here and started to rebuild my life. And eventually made my way back to the 321st and the Combat Engineer unit that I started in, and moved back to that unit as an E5. We had the opportunity to volunteer for deployment. I figured at that point, I not only needed the income, but I wanted to have that experience. I wanted the combat points. I wanted the retirement points. This is what I needed to do at that time. And so I volunteered to go with the asphalt company out of Spokane that was part of our battalion, and reclass and learn how to do that, and, leave for deployment. So
can I ask, what year was this?
This would have been in 2003.
Okay, so just a couple of years after 9/11.
Yeah. 2004.
Before you move on, we're going to take just a quick break.
Okay.
And then we'll let you kind of talk about that transition. I also have a couple questions about the 9/11 stuff. So let's do a quick break, Bryan.
Okay. Sounds good.
And then we'll come back and continue. You're muted, Bryan.
Of course I am. We're going to go ahead and do our veteran showcase. And right here is, his name is Theory, a.k.a. Ryan Dorfield. He is a Marine veteran. Got to meet him through actually Willis. And great guy, doing some amazing things, got some great music. So we're going to go ahead and show him some love, get him queued up. And let me get him going. And all right, here we go. Enjoy this. Let me get us out of here.
I'ma get it on my own, yeah. Gotta turn my heart into a stone, yeah. If you're talking drama, please don't hit on my phone. I ain't got a thing to say to you. I've been in my zone, boy. Shit call me Capone, and I did it on my own, yeah. Gotta turn my heart into a stone, yeah. I ain't got no love, and you haters gonna know. I ain't got a thing to say to you. I've been in my zone, boy. Shit call me Capone, and I did it on my own, yeah. I'm a boss, better get it right. Moving different on them, so up that I'm out of sight. They ain't keeping up with me, so they try to dim my light. They ain't know that I already made it through the darkest nights. Parasites, jealousy is strong, I can smell the spite. Your mood is wrong, better catch a fight. Got connections with my homies that are watertight. All you bitches thirsty for a buzz, all I got is Sprite. So fuck up my face, I'm sick of the snakes. I ain't slowing down cause I got too much talent to waste. I'm loving the thrill, I'ma chase it. I'ma get it on my own, yeah. Gotta turn my heart into a stone, yeah. If you talking drama, please don't hit on my phone. I ain't got a thing to say to you. I've been in my zone, boy. Shit call me Capone, and I did it on my own, yeah. Gotta turn my heart into a stone, yeah. I ain't got no love, and you haters gonna know. I ain't got a thing to say to you. I've been in my zone, boy. Shit call me Capone, and I did it on my own, yeah.
You stand for nothing, you fall for anything. Turning nothing to something, well shit, that's every day. You gotta get up and hustle, at least that's what they say. I'd rather get it and struggle than live a fucking fake. I'm a product of some shit you can't pronunciate. From the bottom on a mission to become a great. It's a head-on collision, that lazy shit is forbidden. With all the effort I've given, it's clear we're not the same. The wicked never rest, gotta move until I die. I feel like Al Capone flipping birds to
I'ma
the
get
other
it
side.
on my own, yeah. Gotta turn my heart into a stone, yeah. If you talking drama, please don't hit on my phone. I ain't got a thing to say to you. I've been in my zone, boy. Shit call me Capone, and I did it on my own, yeah. Gotta turn my heart into a stone, yeah. I ain't got no love, and you haters gonna know. I ain't got a thing to say to you. I've been in my zone, boy. Shit call me Capone, and I did it on my own, yeah.
All right. That right there was Theory, and he featuring a guy named Berserk. They do a lot of collabing together. They are awesome. He's like I said, he's a Marine Corps veteran, and he's out there doing some music. If you can go over and check his social medias out and stuff, once again, it is free 99, and it's Theory, and it's TH30RY Theory. All right. And
Yeah, and Theory and I actually are discussing the possibility of a collaboration. He is thinking about making some music for one of my poems. So, or creating a new song together. So that should be a lot of fun. I met him through the Tip of the Spear as well a couple weeks ago. So he's a really good guy.
damn, I would love to hear that. That would be exciting.
Oh, that
Yeah.
would be fun.
So Dan, my
Mhm.
question that I have for you is, you kind of went over it really quick, and I know your story. There's like so much, and if we don't get to everything, we would love to have you come be on the show again.
Yeah, that'd be
But
fine.
I feel like it's very important to kind of touch base here. There's a lot of people that we've had on here weren't in during 9/11.
Mhm.
And like for me, like I was still in junior high. And we've kind of talked about how, like for me, I knew that 9/11 was this big thing. I remember walking into my classroom and everybody just silent, staring at the
Mhm.
TV. And I walk in just as the second plane hit. And I didn't know what it meant, but I knew that it was huge. And I just sat down and cried. And that was my experience of 9/11. And then it took me, years later, because I was in junior high, to finally join the military. But I am curious, as somebody who was already in the reserves, you talked about that you guys you lost this contract. I'm
Mhm.
not sure exactly what that entails. I want to kind of know what the details was of how that actually affected you. How did that affect you losing money or losing having these difficulties, and that idea of being prepared to deploy right after that, but then not. So, can you go into a little bit more details on how 9/11 actually affected you as somebody who was in?
Yeah. It was weird. When I was a kid, I remember my grandfather talking about how the world stopped when they were listening to the radio report of Pearl Harbor being hit. And I was just kind of it was definitely not something that I could understand or relate to, or that was it was just like that was just an interesting story. It's like, okay, whatever. Um, I think that it was very similar for those of us who saw the towers get hit, where we knew instantly the world was different. Our world was different. Our lives were different. And for some of us, our world stopped. Um, I was the only person for the company that I worked with that had base access. So I was the only one that could actually go on to Bremerton Naval Base to help take care of the clients that we had. The everything on the markets were put on hold because most of my clients were military. The purchases that they had agreed to, because of the circumstances with the towers being hit and units all over the U.S. and all over the world being put on standby for deployment, they were able to cancel their purchase contracts because of that military clause that is in there, where if you have not completed a major purchase and you're put on orders, you have the ability to get out of that purchase because of that situation. That was $15,000 worth of commission that I lost just within the first several weeks, within the first month, because of people being deployed, military members being put on deployment orders, or being told to pack their bags like we were and being told ready to go. When you are in a unit that has been told to stand by and wait for your orders, if you go to apply for a job, you have to let them know, hey, I might be gone tomorrow. I might be gone a month from now. I might never actually deploy, but you have to be aware of the fact that our unit has been told to pack our bags and be ready to go. So that put me in a situation where not only did I lose the income that I had, but I had no ability to actually find a job, because who's going to hire somebody that they don't know if they're going to be there or not? And so when you go for 6 weeks without any kind of income, you miss a car payment, you miss your rent, and then you're told, okay, our unit is not deploying, and now you're trying to find work, but you are now in a situation where the economy is basically cratering. Everybody has everything on hold because nobody wants to spend anything. Nobody wants to commit to anything because nobody knows what's going to happen. And we have troops that are actively deploying to Afghanistan, and, everything from Iraq is getting kind of weird and nobody knows what's going on there. You end up getting screwed in the long run. Because you're in limbo. There's nothing you can do to change anything. And unless you're in a position where you have 6 months of savings to live on, what are you going to do?
So this is an example of just the different dynamics of being reserves and guard compared to active, because as
Yes.
we're like as service members, when we're in, when we get that word like, hey, we've got these orders, we don't know when, how, or where, you're still working and you're still getting a paycheck. And so I
Yes.
can't imagine, like that frustration and the betrayal that you kind of feel, that it's like, okay, you join the military and you're expecting them to kind of like be there for you and have your back, but in this instance they kind of didn't have your back. You kind of got screwed, and that's got to be rough to handle emotionally. Be like, hey, this is, and I know that there is probably a lot of people who are watching this that have had similar experiences, that it's like, hey, we served to take care of the military, but in these instances we're getting screwed over. So I don't know if
Well,
there's a conversation to be had, not necessarily here, but somewhere, the conversation to be had for people in your situation to be protected like that,
well, I don't know. I don't know if that's a situation that really should be put on the shoulders of the military at large. As a reservist, I knew that I needed to have my own source of income, and the reserves was part-time. It gave me the best of both worlds. I served in the military. I get to go out and have fun. I get to play with the toys. I get to do different things. I have the opportunity to go to different places. But I also have the ability to to dictate where my civilian career goes.
Okay.
Okay, so for me to say the military should have taken better care of me during that time is kind of, that's irresponsible on my part, because it was my responsibility to take care of myself and my family, not the military.
Thank
Yeah,
you for
because
correcting me. Thank
Yeah,
you for
because
correcting me, because
I'm the one-
my brain goes differently, and so
Yeah.
thank you for
no, I mean, he brings a
clarifying
good
that.
point though. Like, because a lot of us in the, while you're active, right? Your commitment is solely to the contract that you signed up for those 4 years, right? And
Yeah.
but when you go to as a reservist, it's that 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, and in between that time, you're still trying to have a functional life, right? And get a job, and still that. And where he has a little bit of a leg up, right, is he gets to use that military as he's already like when we don't really get to use ours until we get out. We call ourselves veteran, but while they're in, they almost kind of have a parallel path. They have the ability to kind of create a career and do the service. You know what I mean? But I know it's a hard thing because, like he said, when he goes and puts reservist on there, the employer is already thinking like, well, damn, what if he leaves? What if he gets activated? Then we got to retrain someone. Do we really want to deal with that? So there's a challenge, I imagine, and it's kind of a double-edged sword right there, right? Like you have the card, but that card also has some discrepancies that come along with it, right?
And an employer doesn't have to look at you and say, okay, you're in the reserves. I don't want the risk of having to replace you. But if you're deployed, I can't replace you because it's illegal. So I'm going to find
their hands are
not
tied
to hire you because I don't want to deal with the back end headache. But at the same time, how does that? How do you discriminate against somebody legally without discriminating?
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. They can't legally say they're not hiring you due to the fact that they don't like that you're that you're a reservist, right? And that you can be deployed. They just got to give you that whole, sorry, you just weren't qualified enough, or, sorry, you weren't what we were looking for. You'd probably get those general, like, see you later, without telling you that the real reason is like, well, that's because we're worried that we may lose you.
Yeah. And it was also my decision to go into sales that was commission based. And that was very high risk for me because there's a much better reward. But as I also learned very harshly, the flip side of that is if you're only earning commissions and your sale, you don't have those sales, or those sales get canceled, or some unforeseen, circumstance happens that destroys your ability to make, to have that income, you're screwed. You have nothing to fall back on. And that's where I found myself. So moving back to Salt Lake, where I had more support, I had family that could help while I got back on my feet. That became necessary. I moved back to Salt Lake. Are you out of the
reservist at this point in time now?
Yes, I'm still reservist.
Okay. Oh, you're still?
I moved back to Salt Lake just before the Olympics. I was a week and a half too late to be able to be deployed for the Olympics.
Please explain, because I don't know what you mean, deployed for the Olympics.
When we had the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
The unit that I moved back to, they were part of the military that was deployed for security and support for the Olympics.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that we did that.
Yeah. And so when I came back, I was a week and a half too late to be put on orders to be able to do that, which really sucked.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, whatever. I got my life back together. I was promoted to E5, and I was able to move myself back to the 321st, where I wanted to be in the first place. And honestly, had I never moved to Seattle, I probably would never have changed my MOS, because I really enjoyed what I was doing. I loved being a part of doing the demolitions work and the challenges that came with that, and just the people that I worked with and the unit, and I enjoyed the people I worked with.
Is it hard making a move from a state to a state now? When you're reservist, you're attached to who, like, usually around your community, right, and stuff like that. So now, is that a hard transition to make from one state to another, or?
And also,
Um,
what was your new MOS, and how was the transition from demolition into the new MOS?
It can be difficult. When I moved to Seattle, I went to Kansas to for what they call reclassification, which is changing my MOS, basically going through AIT a second time. And so I did that, and then obviously with me being a 12 Bravo, when I moved back to Salt Lake to be a part and went back to the 321st, I didn't have to go back to school to learn how to be a combat engineer again. I just had to step back into that role.
Okay, so you were originally combat engineer, and
Mhm.
then you went into demolition, so then back to combat engineer.
Well, combat engineer is demolitions.
12 Bravo.
So
12
what did you
Bravo.
change to? I don't know all of this stuff. So you've got a
When I
Barney
moved-
style. So
When I moved to Seattle, I went from being a combat engineer
yes.
to being a transportation specialist because
There
Like
we go.
motor
they
G.
didn't. The closest unit for me would have been Spokane, Washington, and that was an 8-hour drive to be able to get the drill. It just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so you switched to
Um,
transportation when you went there, and then you switched back when you came to Seattle.
Yeah,
or
and then I
came
went back
Salt
to
Lake.
the engineering unit when I moved back to Salt Lake.
Okay, yeah. See, I didn't
Um,
know what 11 Bravo was, or the
12 Bravo.
Yeah.
12 Bravo. Yeah, I was like 11 Bravo. Wait, that's the.
Well,
That's
what was
infantry.
what,
I,
what
I,
was-
I know the damn MOS is better than you, Marie.
I don't like. I knew 68
All these
whiskey.
interviews, I'm
what was
getting
the
so familiar
what was
with
the
them.
nomenclature of your job when you were in, Marie?
I started out with a 91 whiskey, and then
Okay.
in AIT it turned into 68 whiskey, and so that's a medic. So we just
Okay.
are known as the whiskeys. You know, everyone knows whiskey is medic.
Yeah. Well, and it's the same thing with Bravos. Yeah. If you're a 12 Bravo, which is now 21 Bravo, you're a combat engineer.
Okay.
You work
All
with
right, yeah.
explosives. You create minefields. You remove minefields.
Got it.
Remove obstacles, create obstacles. I mean, that's what we did.
Okay.
So I mean, that's
Thank you for clarifying, because I know I'm not the only one that doesn't know this stuff.
Oh, you're fine. It's not a big deal. So
I've
anyway,
learned just by so many different. I've had the 12 Bravo on here before, so when he said 12 Bravo, I was like, "Oh, yeah," because the guy talked about clearing mines and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh shit, okay." So,
yeah, and there's absolutely nothing in the civilian world that translates across the board for a Bravo.
right, exactly.
You may want to you might be interested. Our last interview, he was on a minesweeper ship that was made out of Christmas trees, out of wood, that actually
It has
goes
to be out of wood
and-
because the mines get set by magnetic field sometimes,
Mhm.
so they
Yeah.
have to be made out of wood. It's great. Yeah, it'd be a cool one because you were sweeping on the ground, he was sweeping in the water.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't know which is worse.
yeah. I think neither, both, all of the above.
Yeah.
a little
Fortunately,
risky.
I never had the opportunity of actually clearing a minefield, so but push comes to shove, I know how to do it. So
And that's what matters.
yeah. So, but anyway, long story short, ended up back in Salt Lake. I volunteered to go with the asphalt company out of Spokane, Washington, which was part of our battalion. When I get back to 321st, I have my sergeant stripes, and some of the individuals who remember me from before I moved are not exactly happy about seeing this E5 come in, that they remember being an asshole, being an idiot, not knowing if I actually deserve having the stripes that I have, if I earned them. And so, I'm having to prove myself all over again because no, I'm not a newbie, but I was gone long enough that some of the people that I used to know are no longer there. And so, it's like being a newbie in a new unit.
Boot all over again, huh?
Yeah. And so we have an opportunity to volunteer to go to Iraq, and I'm one of the guys that says, "Let me go. I want this. This is something that I feel that I need." We have all kinds of problems actually getting into Iraq. The Roro that had our equipment on it broke down. They had to actually bring it in via tug. So that delayed us getting out of Kuwait into Iraq. We missed a couple of deadlines, blah, blah, blah. We're about a week and a half from leaving Kuwait, going into, convoying into Iraq. At this point, I find out that my wife at the time has a mutual friend who is playing father and husband, father to her kids, not mine, and husband. And it was made very clear that I am going to accept that because I am the one that abandoned her, and I owed her for my decision to leave her and go to Iraq. And
so she found a Jody.
She
found a Jody. Yeah, we call him Jody.
Yes. At the same time, the same morning that I discovered this, the individual that went, "Hey, I'll help," is now an E6. And he is my squad leader. And he has never forgiven me for what he had to deal with.
Oh,
and he let me know that he is going to prove that I am not worthy of having my E5. He is going to prove I am a piece of shit, and he is going to have my E5 taken away. We are going through the up armor process on all our vehicles. I get done working on a Humvee that I'm helping one of our platoon guys with, and I go to work on the 916 with getting sandbags put in and getting the oversized semi truck that I am driving, a 20-ton dump truck that is my vehicle for the convoy, and making sure we're ready to go. And I have all of this going on in my head. I get lost in myself, get lost in my head, and I'm no longer working in a Humvee mentally, or I'm no longer working in the dump truck mentally. I'm working in the Humvee, and I step out of the truck thinking that the ground is a foot and a half below me, when in fact it's 4.5 feet.
Yeah.
I land on my head.
Oh.
From what we can figure,
or anything at this point in time, or you just straight dome?
I'm just, well, I had my helmet on because I was required. That's probably the only thing that kept me from actually cracking my skull.
Yeah, no shit. Dude.
Yeah. We don't know exactly what happened, but we think that on the way down, I snagged my left foot on the inside of the door frame and separated the cartilage from my hip at that point.
Ooh.
Or did enough damage where a week and a half later, when we convoy from Kuwait into Iraq, I step out of the vehicle and I am no longer able to walk 100 meters.
You locked up from just sitting for so long, huh? In that one spot, you ended up locking up and didn't even know it.
Yeah. So in less than a 2-week period of time, I went from being able to keep up with and outdo most of the guys that were 10 years younger than I am, to not being able to keep up with somebody who's 20 years older than I am.
Yeah.
I could run an 8-minute mile without an issue. Our PT test, if I ran the way that I normally would, I would complete the 2 miles in typically 12 to 14 minutes. Most of the time, I did not complete that run in less than 15, 16 minutes, because I was also making sure that I was pacing some of my friends and making sure that they were keeping up. And I felt that it was more important to me to help make sure they got through the finish line than to me be at the front of the pack and, shoot for that, that physical fitness badge. So I'm now in a position where my life is completely different. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I can't walk from the barracks to the porta potty without being in extreme pain. It was such a shock to my system that I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it. And it took a couple months before they realized, okay, there's something wrong. They wanted to send me into Baghdad to have an MRI done. But because the x-rays didn't show anything conclusive, it was determined that that flight was not going to happen, and that it was now time to determine whether or not I was faking an injury so that I could be able to be sent back home because, well, my wife was with somebody else.
I just want to bring up one thing, okay, with what you said. Okay, so as somebody who got medically discharged for my hips, okay, and who it took multiple years for them to take seriously what was actually going on with my hips. X-rays, if you have a soft tissue problem, okay, connective tissue problem or soft tissue problem, if they do just an X-ray for you, push them as hard as you can to get an MRI because X-rays don't show anything. And so like for me, I actually had a doctor who did X-rays, and he's like, I was telling him I need a handicap placard for my bad days. Oh no, you're fine. You're still walking. Da 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 da. And I was like, dude, something is wrong. And he basically told me, I don't believe you, but I'm gonna go ahead and send you for the MRI. The day I get the MRI, he calls me back. I am so sorry. You need hip replacements. Like it was that much. So I will say, as somebody who has experienced what you were experiencing, what you experienced there, X-rays don't show anything. Push for an MRI because I'm sure a lot of hell could have been fixed if you got that MRI right away.
Yeah.
So I just want to throw that out there for anybody who is suffering with the same thing. I know something's wrong. The X-rays aren't showing it. Push for the damn MRI.
And one thing with hips, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just one of those things that progressively start getting worse, as time goes on, right? It's not something that just like, oh, it'll heal, it's going to heal itself. There's none of that, right?
Well, had my chain of command authorized the medical flight into Baghdad for the MRI, there's a good chance I probably could have saved my hip and saved my career. But because the focus became on, okay, how do we get rid of you because you're a problem child? It changed everything.
Lazy, as they call it. Yeah.
And because that focus became, let's prove that you're faking this and not actually injured, things were completely different. And this is where the extreme betrayal that I dealt with in Iraq really came full force and put me into the position that I was in. Within a few months, things had progressed to the point where not only were individuals trying to prove that I was faking my injury, things with my ex progressed to the point where it was absolutely just, I didn't know where I was at from day to day, mentally or emotionally. I didn't know where I was going to go. The pressure that I was dealing with from part of my chain of command, just the lack of interest of treating me like a human being from what I felt, just spiraled to a point where I was put on suicide watch. And I had my weapon taken away. I had, I was restricted, everything else. And then those same individuals wanted to make sure that I understood how worthless I was because I was no longer of value to the unit or to the mission or anything else.
That really sucks.
Yeah, and after working with the psychologist on post, or one of them, when I finally decided, okay, dude, this is what I'm dealing with, and it took me probably about 3 or 4 weeks before I actually opened up to him and told him what was going on and what I was dealing with. He looked at me with this really weird look on his face, and he goes, I know guys that have killed themselves for dealing with less than what you're dealing with. And I was absolutely stunned. Why would a shrink tell their patient that?
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to handle that. I didn't know how to take that. But something inside clicked going, okay, well, obviously I'm strong enough to handle this. So let me figure out how to handle this.
I'm wondering if his motive and I'll never know, we'll never know what he was thinking, but I wonder if his motive was like kind of like trying to encourage you, like, hey, look how resilient you are being. Instead of letting this take over you, you are reaching out for help. And that goes into like my working definition of resiliency is that ability to reach out for help so that you don't give up. And so I'm wondering if that was his motive.
I don't know. And unfortunately, I'll never be able to know. I did find out when I tried tracking him down years later that about 1.5 years after he got back, he actually took his own life.
Wow. That.
Yeah. So that was really, yeah, it was really hard to hear. All I know is at that point, things for me, as far as how I saw things, changed. Battalion got involved. I was assigned different responsibilities. I was actually loaned out to the 101st to work in the chow hall, and I spent the rest of my deployment away from my company. And well, I still lived in the barracks and everything else, but I worked for the 101st Airborne at that point. Which actually was one of the best things that happened because it got me away from what I was dealing with, away from the people that I couldn't stand to look at. I couldn't stand
the
to be around.
toxicity that you were around, right?
Yeah, and got me in a place where I was in a much better position when I came back, when we returned home, than I would have been otherwise. I spent my 2 weeks of leave filing for divorce, hiring an attorney, getting a whole bunch of blood tests done for rheumatoid arthritis, blah blah blah, to go back in country and say, look, this is not the issue. I'm not faking this. There is something that's actually wrong. They just don't know because I can't get what I need tested and taken care of because I can't get clearance through my chain of command for those medical procedures to be done. So I go back, I spend the next, the remaining portion of our deployment working in the chow hall, not having to deal with a lot of that bullshit of it. And then we come home. I'm put on, I'm transferred over to medical hold almost immediately after we get back. They go through, they do the MRIs, they decide that, okay, I probably have a torn labrum and I have a cyst on the side of my hip. So we're going to send you home on home health care. And, here we go. A year later, they're deciding that because of the injuries that I have, I'm going to have a permanent profile. My shoulders are completely jacked because of the recurring tendonitis that I have in my shoulders. I have a permanent profile for push-ups. I have a permanent profile for running, which means I can do sit-ups, but a limited amount of sit-ups. So I'm no longer deployable. I'm no longer promotable. The transfer that I started to move over to a PsyOps unit at the time in Denver is stopped because there's no need for me to move to another unit and go through AIT or anything else because I'm non-promotable, I'm non-deployable. Why should I take up a slot for somebody else who could actually go somewhere? I had been working as a retention officer for 2.5 years, which oddly enough, the same individual that caused me all the majority of the grief. I also saved his ass on his reenlistment because he almost lost about $4,000 of his reenlistment bonus because of how he handled things, and I was able to correct that and fix that. Why should I stay in when at that point all I have is all this betrayal and all of this? I'm never going to be more than what I am now. And so for me, it was a logical decision to accept the medical discharge. 2 years later,
they forced your hand really on that, right? I mean,
yeah,
to give you the ability not to move any way, but that way, I mean, it's no way to keep going, right?
Yeah, exactly. So 2 years later, I'm having my left hip replaced because there was so much damage done. There was no way to change it, to save it. And I'm going through school. I decided to go back to school and go toward a bachelor's in business management. Between 2006 and 2012, I went through an average of 2 surgeries a year.
Oh, sheesh.
One hip was redone twice. My right hip was redone in 2012. The rest of the surgeries were for labor and repair on my right hip and shoulder surgeries to correct the damage and the tendonitis and the other issues that I've had.
Did they give you so you're out at this point, those
Yes.
6 years of surgeries.
Yeah.
Did they give you the medical discharge so you had disability when you got out, or did you
No.
have to fight for the disability?
I was medically discharged with a 0% military disability.
Oh no.
And
That
I
is
was
ridiculous.
given a 30% VA disability to start out with.
Okay. Well, at least you got that 30%. So for people who don't understand, there's a difference between the DoD percentage and the VA percentage. The DoD percentage is basically what part of you doesn't qualify for retention standards anymore. And so that's confusing to me why they would say 0 and then kick you out. But the separate thing is so the DoD only looks at what makes you non-deployable and non-retention. And then the VA is like everything else. And so they are 2 different percentages. So it's a good thing you got. So it's a really good thing that you got that 30% because that gets you into the VA, but it's still not very much.
No.
So that kind of sucks. They
Definitely not enough
kind
to
of
live on.
screwed you.
And the 0% is the acknowledgement that there is something wrong. It gives so because of the 0%, it's a claim that's there, but there's no percentage. Now you got to go fight to get that 0 to whatever it may be. That's the part that they kind of did you dirty.
You can't fight the 0% of the DoD. So that is a 0% with the DoD. Whatever they give you is what they give you. So they're saying, hey,
I've never heard of this part.
You don't qualify for retention standards, but we're not going to give you a percentage. So you can't fight that. That is just what it is through the DoD. But the VA, if they give you a 0% for anything, that is holding space, saying, hey, you have this disability. If it gets worse, then we'll pay you. But that's what they did with my dad. That's what they did with my dad, and they screwed him over for like 5 years. They gave him a 0% for his hearing So they would take care of just his hearing. They would give him hearing aids, but they wouldn't take care of anything else. They didn't give him any payment. That is a way that they kind of screw you. So if you get a 0%, that's good because it gets you into the system, but fight your ass off to get a higher percentage. That's all I'm going
And
to
the
say.
DOD does the whole thing to protect their ass, right? To
Yes.
show that they're kicking you out due to the fact that you had an issue with you. I mean, that's why they give you that little rating, just because that protects them, and the reason why they pushed you out.
Yeah.
But that
However-
0% is ridiculous. That's like an F.
Yeah,
that's like saying
that's
that's like saying we don't want you in here, so we're just going to tell them that we don't want you in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 0% is a slap in the face.
Now, 2010, however, I got notification from the medical board that they had gone through and reevaluated my discharge along with a whole bunch of others. They came to determine that, one, I had been misdiagnosed. Two, I had been discharged inappropriately. And so now I have a 30% DOD medical retirement.
Awesome.
Not just a medical discharge.
Awesome. Yeah. And there is a huge difference there. So like I got a 20% DOD and the 20% is just a regular medical discharge. But when you get that secret number, which is that 30%, that is a medical retirement. And that opens up TRICARE. That opens up all retiree benefits. Like for me, I didn't get the benefits until I got 100, the same as retiree benefits, right? But at 30%, you get those retiree. Yeah.
When you get those, do you still get the VA
Yes.
rating benefits as well? So it's just this is a medical retirement that is
separate? I'm 100% disabled with the VA.
Okay.
100% service connected. Unless laws are changed, I get no benefit from the 30% medical retirement from the DOD.
So the what from my
double
understanding,
dip, I think, right?
It's considered double dipping, and from what I understand, that law has not actually changed yet, but they're working on it.
So for my understanding, and we'd have to get a VSO to really clarify. So it really only matters if you don't get 100% VA. Okay. So basically, if you get your retirement from the DOD and you only have like a 30 or 40% through the VA, they will pay you whichever payment is higher.
Yes.
And so you can't double dip. They'll pay you which one is higher. Now, once you get that 100%, then you're good. But another change is that if you don't have the 100% through the VA, right? If you get that retirement from the military, you get TRICARE, and you get TRICARE for your dependents. So even 100% disability through the VA, I don't get care for my dependents. Okay, I get Champ VA, but that's still you have to pay $3,000 a year in order to do it. But when you get that medical retirement, you get to have medical care for your dependents, and so that's the thing. He's 100%. So he gets that 100% pay because that pay is higher, but he also gets that TRICARE benefit for his dependents, which I don't get.
Plus, I have base access and other benefits that come along with it, with the retirement as well.
So that's where the differences are. So to continue in the story, I know that we're kind of running close on time, and I know we kind of went a lot more details into the military service, and it's good, and your childhood, because this is important stuff to talk about. Can you tell us a little bit more about, so we talked about, your disability, and so that's great. We talked about how you had all these surgeries, and that is hard and difficult. Can you tell us a little bit more about your emotional transition when you got out, and also what programs you found that helped you out that led you into where you're at today, and the programs you're involved with, and how you're doing your woodworking for about, the next 15 minutes? Can you just kind of like sum up all of that stuff for us?
When I was medically discharged and my service was over, I was given a nice, thank you, have a nice day check, and we hope your life goes well. Outside of family, My immediate family, brothers, sisters, I had no support system. There was no support. I obviously working with a VA, there was mental health services that I could go through. I went through another breakdown about 1.5 years, almost 2 years after I got out. I felt absolutely worthless and lost, and I didn't know where I was going, and blah blah blah. I ended up on some pretty severe meds that helped to balance me out, but also turned me into a complete zombie. I couldn't remember what I needed to do from day to day. I had, if I didn't pay my rent and I got an eviction notice a week later, I'm like, who cares? I'll just take in the money. It's not a big deal.
Was this prescribed by the VA?
Yes.
Okay.
I eventually got myself off of those because I had to be able to think. I had to be able to actually function. I had to figure out what I was going to do. During that time, I would work, part-time jobs. Just nothing. I couldn't keep anything steady. I couldn't keep anything stable. Went back to school to work through my degree, or the working with voc rehab to get my bachelor's degree. But I really didn't have any actual support system or anything else. Everything I was doing was on my own. I was strong enough. I didn't need anything. I could be able to do this with just, family and a couple, handful of friends that I had, and that was it. Followed up with my MBA because I wanted to see if I could do it. That kicked my ass. I was able to get it completed and started doing woodworking as a way to keep myself busy because I couldn't find work. When you're telling somebody that you're disabled, that you have to have certain accommodations made for you, they're not exactly open to, having to meet those accommodations at times. My military service, my sales experience, my management experience, my MBA put me in a position where I was overqualified for a lot of the jobs that I tried to apply for, or I wasn't quite what they were looking for as far as what I was capable of doing, or they weren't willing to pay me what I was, I should be able to be paid. So I just decided to start doing some woodworking to keep myself busy, give myself something to do, give myself something to focus on, which for me actually became therapeutic because it caused me to focus on a specific skill set and being able to expand what I was doing and learn how to do more, and really give me something to look at and put all that energy into. It wasn't until just a couple of years ago when my now ex-wife decided that she no longer wanted to be married to somebody who was a disabled veteran. There was, our relationship was over. There was no longer any value for me to provide for the relationship. That, I found myself in the situation where I am now and started getting involved with other veteran groups because I realized at that point that I had nothing for me. I had no support system. I had no support structure other than myself and my immediate family. And I did not realize how much I actually needed to have that veteran community or be a part of the veteran community, and the benefits that brings to somebody in my position, where trying to find that support system and understand that, yes, I'm okay. There's nothing wrong with me. It just wasn't there until I got involved with the different, veteran organizations and working with other veterans and realizing that I'm no different than anybody else. I'm just in a different circumstance than some other people.
So you found that common humanity.
Yes.
Letting you know that you are not alone. That's a new word that I was introduced to in the PTSD clinic back in January. But yeah, you started seeing that you aren't alone in what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was going to say, what are the programs that you are all a part of right now? I know of a couple of them. But
Right now, locally, I'm working. I've been working with Warrior Revival, Irreverent Warriors, and just started working with another group, Battle Forge Foundation, which is a little bit of a hybrid between veteran and first responders, and starting to see the correlation between what we as veterans go through versus, as well as first responders, and how close those communities are as far as the PTSD, the way we process things, that service mentality, that service oriented personality that we all have, and just trying to help other people know that, yes, somebody else is going through or has gone through the same thing or more than what you're dealing with, but we can help each other. That's also one of the reasons that I started the YouTube channels, because I got tired of hearing veterans go, "Oh, well, I'm broken. I can't do anything." I'm like, dude, I've had both hips replaced. I have both shoulders that are completely destroyed. Well, one of them is completely destroyed. The other one is about halfway there. I've figured out how to work with those limitations to do some of the stuff that I do. And here's proof that you can work with those limitations and get beyond where you see your wall. You can get over that wall. You can get past it. You can do something. Just find something that you can turn into a passion to keep yourself going. And that was the whole reason behind starting the YouTube channel. And that's also why I'm involved with the different veterans organizations now, and hopefully adding a couple more, because what it's provided to me isn't really the support, but it's the acknowledgement that there's nothing wrong with me. I am who I am because of my service, because of what I have experienced, because of where I am in life. My disabilities do not define me. I define myself. And if we can help other veterans get to that same point, we can help to reduce the number of suicides, the number of issues, and reduce the deaths that we deal with, because we can't see past where we're at.
So if you could give someone just one piece of advice, okay, what advice would you give them in how to overcome that victim mentality?
Don't give up. Find people that have experienced what you've experienced, or can understand what you are going through because of their experiences. And if you need to lean on them, lean on them. We're not broken. We might be disabled. We might
Little
understand
damage,
things
maybe.
differently. We might have a different viewpoint in life, but we're not inherently broken. We're changed. You know, we're not a light bulb to be pulled out of the socket and thrown away because we don't work as intended. You can't teach somebody to be a sociopath and then tell them to turn that switch off and be a normal person. We are who we are because of our service, because of what we have gone through. And those of us who have been in a combat zone, yes, we have a different outlook. We have different switches have been switched. Some of the switches will never, ever be turned off. We will never be back who we were prior to those experiences. But that doesn't mean we're broken. That just means we are different. And we need to be able to accept those differences and learn to live with those differences and not fight them.
I love that, man. I really appreciate you, Dan, coming on and talking about all your experiences and all the things you're doing. That's the one of the harder parts. I think a lot of us, like you said, man, and especially the way you were raised, then you went into the military that kind of backed up the way you were raised and the way, not really dealing with your feelings and stuff of that nature. So you really taking the time to realize a lot of that, man, and then having the bravery to come out and speak to us and to whoever watches this is just amazing, bro. And you're setting a great example, for our brothers and sisters. We're gonna have a lot of brothers and sisters coming home from another war here that's happening now, right? And we're going to be probably dealing with that for the next, who knows, the war that we were all a part of lasted for over fucking 20 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so God only knows what kind of stuff we're going to have to deal with now, but at least more than then, we have these type of things. And a lot of us are starting to say, hey, I didn't like the way I felt. I don't like the way that my outcome was. I don't want to see someone else's outcome that way either. So the only way that we could ever learn is by talking, and sharing that, because I don't know you until you tell me about you, and you don't know me until I tell you about me. Right. And everything at a surface level is not what is inside someone, right? I mean, a lot of times there's people that walk around with smiles all day long on their face. Sometimes they are the most hurt individuals, you know what I mean? But they just don't show that. So the more that we can have our brothers and sisters come out, have bravery like you, Dan, and talk about these things, I hope that we can get the ear of at least one or two men or women and help them with their journey and realize that, hey, man, no matter how much the suck is, it's when you're living in that suck, how do you deal with it? But then how do you get your ass out of it? Because there's ways out, right? And a lot of us feel like we're trapped and we're like, oh, there's just no way out of this. But, you and a lot of our previous guests has just shown time and time again, don't give up. And I imagine, bro, you still go through, tough times. We never really get clear in the world of problems while we're here on Earth. It is just, I think, a part of our experiences. But as we get older and as we go through them, I feel that, we start to learn how to weather them a little better than the last time. At least you hope so, right? And
that's the goal. And I mean,
absolutely.
We're all brothers and sisters in service.
Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't matter what branch. It doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter if you deployed or you didn't. It doesn't matter if you served in a war zone or you didn't. We're all brothers and sisters in service. And that's what we need to remember. And we need to remember to support each other. We don't need another Vietnam situation where veterans feel absolutely ignored and worthless and where they don't matter.
and that's what concerns me a little bit about the temperament of what's going on in our current events right now, and the way that people are viewing it, and then it gets taken out on the service members who, I don't think a lot of people understand the psyche that goes behind joining. I think a lot of people have different thoughts, but until you ever really join and understand, you don't really have that clear understanding. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dan. This has been
thank you,
so
guys.
wonderful. We
And-
were really glad to be here. We're gonna go ahead and close it out, but stay after, and we would love to chat with you for a few minutes after.
And
But
I'd love to be on again too.
this has been
Absolutely.
fantastic. It's wonderful getting to know you in person and actually seeing you walk the walk and talk the talk. So I'm loving getting to know you, and yes, we would love to have you back on.
Yep,
Thank you so much, Dan. We appreciate your service to your country and still what you're doing. So appreciate you, man.
And I appreciate what you guys are doing too. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
We'll see you in a few.
All right, friends and fam, that wraps up another amazing one. While he was talking, I was trying to show his YouTube channel and a little bit about what he does, but go over to Tilted Knot Woodworks. It is free 99 to go subscribe to his channel. Go show him some love. Go check out some of his amazing work. Definitely, I was looking through some of his videos. He walks you basically through the entire build. And so it's really cool if you guys are, have some time. And if you don't, and you have some YouTube, just go subscribe and show some love. Will help him build his channel up. But Marie, do we have anything from you to close this out, or do you have any other things you want to say before we get going?
I am just really loving what we're doing with the show and just showcasing people, especially people that I know personally. This has been a lot of fun. So, if you guys want to come be on the show, please reach out, go to sliderbabe.com, get registered. We are booked out until June at the moment, but we would love to get you set up. And check out the show. Sliderbabe.com has a link tree that goes into the Everyday's a Saturday link tree that has all of our socials on it. So check it out. Give us some love. And we are just so grateful to be a part of this community. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And we appreciate everybody. I mean, it's we appreciate all the love and support that everybody gives to us. Without you guys, we can't get these stories out. So just push the like button, share button, all you can, so we can get these stories out. But we're going to go ahead and head it out. Once again, don't let the day kick your ass. Make sure you're out there kicking it, and we'll see you guys on the next one. All right, guys.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.